Hey, you wonderful weirdos. Welcome back to New Comic Book Day, Comic Book Haul and Review, where I picked up some stuff like Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman. And I'm not too keen on the ending of that. Kind of weird. Also, Women of Marvel, She Devils. We're going to talk about that one. And of course, we got G.I. Joe, 'cause we're big G.I. Joe fans here. Complete bias review on that one. Just know it's the pick of the week. That and a few other comic books, but as always, I have to try to sell you some coffee, so check this out. Absolute Wonder Woman, number 5. This ends this arc, and I'm going to go ahead and say arc because they left it on a cliffhanger. This is the end of it, and I'm not too, everything that happened in this book just kind of got wrapped up a little too easily in this one. I'm also not a big fan of what they did with the lasso of truth, because that was a thing, right? Now it's the lasso of transformation, I guess, as she turns into Medusa, because that's one of the new powers. Luckily, Trev was there to kind of talk her down and bring her out of this kind of Medusa phase and back into Wonder Woman, just to have a ghost hand come up and grab her and drag her back down the hell. That's pretty much what happened in this. She defeats the monster, of course, because she turns it to stone. Medusa, right? You get that? Yeah. That's I don't know. I don't know why I don't like that. Like, it seems kind of like a cool concept, but it's just too far fetched. Like, she had this huge sword. You could have done a whole thing with that and just left the lasso alone. Like, I don't care about the lasso. I don't think anybody really cares about the lasso unless you're like into certain things. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, for the most part, this just seemed like a little too convenient of an ending, just to have a MacGuffin just there at the last second to magically take care of everything. I don't know. Maybe I was expecting too much. Metamorpho number 3. So, look, I've heard people talk about this comic book. I get it. Some of you people do not like it out there. Let me share with you why I do like it. One, we're making connections in here that we normally haven't seen in DC in a while. Like, for instance, Java, the manservant of the Stag Corporation, right? He was a frozen caveman. I wanted to say Neanderthal, but I don't think they've ever really specified, so it doesn't matter. And then having somebody like Vandal Savage, who's been alive for like a million years, right? That kind of weird connection that kind of happened there. I thought that was kind of weird, but cool. Like, it makes sense to me. Also, in this one, we get something that we don't really see in Metamorpho as a character very much, in his kind of character development of him, and his relationships with people. Like, he has a girl that kind of did him wrong on social media for clicks and views. So there's an updatedness to it. But there's also this kind of mod error type lingo that's constantly being used in it to kind of remind you of its roots and where this comics book came from. I like it for those aspects. Am I like, oh my god, everybody needs to be reading Metamorpho? No, this is just a personal decision on my part. It's just kind of refreshing to break up the dialogue like that a little bit and see characters like, I don't know, Mad Mod, who we talked about on the last issue, his first appearance and everything, and these kind of obscure characters and bringing them in and adding other newer characters to it. I'm digging that aspect of it. We get Women of Marvel, the She Devils. All right, so look, the Peach Momoko cover is what it is. And this is one of those things, right, that you always have to be worried about on the internet. Because if you dare say something bad about a completely female-led project, right, it generally comes off as, well, you just don't like women. Like, that's not the case here. I assure you of that. I want to see more women getting involved in comic books and making comic books that people want to buy on a weekly basis. I fully support that. But this just kind of came off as a bunch of people came together, man, woman, doesn't matter to me, and they each had an idea. And just to kind of make everybody happy, they threw all the ideas up on the board and took all the ideas and threw them into the comic book. Because this thing's kind of a mess and it's kind of all over the place. Yes, it's broken into 3 different sections by 3 different creators. And there is zero coherency in those storylines. It's just a mess. Like the villain transcends through it and then all of a sudden becomes a Viking out of nowhere. Right? The Savage Lands are being used. Why not? Doesn't look much like the Savage Lands from one to another. And I don't know if they're just testing the waters here. I can't imagine like somebody with editing, an editor, senior chief editor, going through this and was like, this is what the weekly comic book writer wants right here. It feels more like it's just a message to something to be said to people instead of telling us a great story and showing us some cool stuff. And the art does not match this story. I'm sorry. I generally avoid art talk, but if it takes you out of the story, which is what I'm there for, yeah, it's a miss. So the common argument would be, well, obviously the comic book wasn't made for you. And I'm getting kind of tired of that argument, that kind of rebuttal, right? Just to throw in people's faces. Well, it needs to be. Because I'm the guy who's literally buying comic books on a weekly basis. And I don't care how much they cost. Like, they can bump the price of a comic book another $2. I'm still going to go get my weekly haul and I'm going to review it here for you guys. So you would think that would be your target market. Because I'm going to tell you right now, just saying this book, there was no big push, advertising push behind this book either. Like they did not promote it. It was not on the Instagrams or the Twitches. Nobody was ranting and raving that this book was coming out. So there was no advertising behind it, and yet you still want to attract newer readers. You got to advertise for that. Again, I'm not sure what management decisions are going on over there when this came out, but it passed through. It was a push through. Hey, push it through. That's the feeling I get when I read this. It feels rushed. It's incoherent. The story doesn't make much sense. The artwork's just jam-packed where it's just weird. I'm not sure what they're doing over at Marvel. And it's a shame because the people that were on the team to make this, there were some talented people there. And when you just jam somebody else into the creative process to make something, it turns into a mess. And I think that's constructive criticism right there. And I hope all the creators involved in this get their own comic book and they can actually flesh out their own ideas. I think that would be better. That's enough of that soapbox. Next comic book. The Red Hulk, number 1. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, this is phenomenal. And we're going to see this in the next comic book too. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. This was pretty cool. So we know General Ross is the Red Hulk, right? That's kind of his shtick, his deal, if you will. But we don't really know a whole lot about General Ross. Like, we know he's Betty's daughter, or his daughter is Betty. We do know that kind of stuff. But as far as his function as a general in the military, right? It's kind of like saying general doesn't really mean anything. There's all kinds of generals that do all kinds of things, right? And then we really get to see that strategist that he really is, that combat strategist. And I really enjoyed that. One of the great techniques in here, and one of the first things you should always know about leadership, is being able to communicate. And the fact that they used the old Morse code tapping technique in here, I thought was really good, which is something that has been around since World War I for POWs to be able to talk to each other. Why is he in prison? Doom decided that he needs to lock up a bunch of people because he's trying to take over the world. Right? We're in that, right? The Age of Doom type of thing going on. But I did enjoy this because as we're tapping, we're learning not only what people who are there, who do we know, who can we trust, we're also getting data, we're getting information, all through just tapping. So people like Deathlock, Machine Man are there, and probably some other obscure characters. I think one of them's called the Leader of the Claw or something like that. I don't know that character too much. But I'm actually intrigued to see what he can do in this kind of meshed up team of prisoners as they try to break out of Doctor Doom's lair, his dungeon, if you will. I found this interesting. It was great on all aspects. I really enjoyed it. Great action scenes in it. And the first part of the story kind of doesn't fit into the main story, but that's because we're being preluded into something. So why take down a plane and make a nuclear plant blow up in Asia? Hopefully we'll find out. We get Captain America and Volstagg. So to understand this book, you can take it for face value, and it's just Volstagg. Hey, we were all wrong in our perceptions of Volstagg as a person, right? He really is a lot more sophisticated than we ever known. If you don't know who Volstagg is, basically he's when Thor has his little group, right? The Thor 3 or whatever. In his little group, there's the fat one that's kind of goofy and weird in team dynamics, right? And in storytelling dynamics. And then there's like the darker one, and then there's like the handsome one, and then whatever the case may be, Thor, the valiant leader, right? Everybody plays a role in the group dynamics. And Volstagg kind of takes it back and says, yeah, I'm actually not a big fat goof. I sacrificed my identity for team dynamics and my role in the team. I thought that was really great. But again, that can weigh on anybody when you have to sacrifice that much of yourself. So what does he do? He goes to another planet and kind of helps people there kind of defend off from some invaders, alien invaders. And in the mix, kind of found himself kind of smitten with a young lady there, and the young lady obviously was smitten with him as well. So now he goes to Captain America and he's like, hey, my role versus my identity don't exactly line. I need you to help me because I can't let my friends know this. So Captain America sacrifices a little bit of honesty and not only helps defeat the oncoming slaughter of alien invaders, but also he lies and fakes Volstagg's death from this planet so he can be clean from it and go back to being the lovable goof that we've known in comic books for a while. It was so unique that he went so far into the role that he was playing that he doesn't speak like the other Asgardians because he learned English from somebody else. Benjamin Franklin. It was actually kind of cool. It was weird, but it was cool at the same time, just to kind of throw that aspect into it. So all in all, I really enjoyed this story. Is this something that if it was longer than just a single issue, I'd pick up all the time? I honestly don't know. I thought it was just a cool little peek into a character and using a cool character to assist them. No more than that. So we get G.I. Joe, number 314. So this is the non-Energon universe from Image. I enjoy G.I. Joe. I particularly enjoy this issue. I have one little hinky thing, though. We're going to talk about identity and role again here in a second. Just to kind of send that message home in this episode. In this one, we get a G.I. Joe character I did not know about. I've been at it. I'm mostly into the 80s G.I. Joe era, right? So we get this one character called Sherlock. The name always gives away the job, if you don't know. Right? She's like super policewoman. Right? Whatever. Super cool. Super solid character in this, too, by the way. I've really enjoyed her. We also get Tunnel Rat. We get some roadblock action. Get Tripwire. Right? And what their main purpose is to go do a rescue op, right? To go recover somebody. But then, because the situations of the environment change, right? They have to adapt and overcome. All my veterans out there, can a brother get an amen for fitting that phrase into this? Thank you. So, because the situation changed, that the girl that they're there to rescue isn't really the girl, right? She's there to actually kill the head bad guy in this particular. We'll just go ahead and call him Terry's for right now, because you do. So now they have to go capture the Terry, but the girl wants the Terry dead. So now you got to kind of change the dynamics in which you're in. A little bit of a negotiation going on. So it turns into a snatch and grab, whatever. Great. Non-stop action in this. Great. The non-veteran reader going to be super impressed with the lingo and that they're accurate with the type of equipment and stuff that they're using. There's a non-veteran reader out there. What about the veteran readers? You're going to get a little annoyed, right? If there's one thing that the military is known for besides a dark humor, it's a very distinctive lingo, which they kind of pulled back from in this. And this is me asking too much. I should say that now. So anybody from Image, if you're watching, I'm being nitpicky right now because I've said nothing but good things about G.I. Joe. There's a couple of examples in here where, like, a guy picks up an M60, right? About to rock the M60. It's an overlarge machine gun. It's been used forever in the military, or at least might as well be. And he's like, they're doing like a loadout. They're checking all their stuff while they're on the helicopter moving, which you don't do, but whatever. So they're going, and Tunnel Rat's like, yeah, I got my M60E. And I'm sitting, I don't know why. That just kind of took me out for a second. I was like, no, it's not what you would say. Right? It's not. And then, like, one guy's like, I got my depleted uranium round. That's just too many words in a combat situation because they're being shot at. It's just too much communication. And I get it, right? You have to kind of appease it. So this is, again, where your identity and role are two different things. My role here on YouTube is to read comic books and regurgitate them back to you. My identity as a veteran is that, right? So, I don't know. Also, another thing, they were very specific in explaining everything in this, and then they use a term, SIPRIP, and didn't bother explaining to anybody what a SIPRIP was, right? And I can imagine a non-viewer, like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what is that? I gotta go look a word up now. You know, little yellow box, could have broke it out in there. You know, anytime you use a bit of lingo, you know, you always add a definition someplace most of the time in a comic book. I don't know. I thought it was weird. But if that's something that Image is interested in and you need a military consultant in some way, shape, or form, call your boy up, man. I'm on Instagram, Pocan_Joe. I'll be happy to run you through this, you know, some basic stuff. I would love to work for anything regarding G.I. Joe. Even if it's just part-time. It would be cool as a consultant or advisor. Kidding me? Lingo expert. I would do that. So that's your comic book haul and review for this week. Definitely let me know what you thought about what you read and what's out there that I'm missing. Again, definitely want to know that. Evil Air projects in the work. If you don't know, I have another channel where we do stupid stuff with my Evil Air. And then I make a video and play some music and show it to you. It's definitely, if that's something you're interested in, watching a comic book nerd get goofy, we can do that. And of course, I'll be around in the chats. Other than that, I got nothing else, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye.